So here we are at the Hidden Haven Homestead and starting another new project. I hadn't planned on doing this, but Cody from Sandstone Farm had contacted me about starting my incubators up, and I was kind of waiting. We were building another chicken house, so I didn't have to necessarily do my incubation in the basement, trying to get that moved out. And he started talking to me about these American Bresse chickens, and after talking to him and kind of looking up some stuff, and I thought, well, I might as well try to get into this new thing. So said I would do that for him. He had come across 500 plus eggs, and so we're gonna put those in the incubator today and see what we can do with that. We're gonna incubate on shares, so in the end he'll get some and then I'll get a few to start a crop of my or block of my own. So all right, Joe's bringing the eggs in, and we're going to get them loaded into the incubator, since we know there's probably 500 or so eggs in here. Ooh, look at those are pretty. We are going to probably start 2 different batches because the bottom of the hatcher on the bottom won't hold 500 eggs, and so we're gonna go ahead and get half the trays started today, and then in 5 more days I'll start the other half of the trays.
And
so
this is the rest of them. There's not all of them.
Yeah, there's looks like there's
2
one
boxes.
full box and a partial box here. So we'll show you, we'll get some of these loaded up onto our egg trays. Whoops, here, this is what we put them on. We do have blue and yellow, so try to divide those up so that I can keep track of what's what, but we'll start loading those up. All right, so Joe has unloaded a few of the trays here. They are nice and pretty, and we'll get some of those loaded onto the tray here and show you how we get those in the incubator, and then get that incubator locked down and not touch it for a while. All right, Joe's gonna put the 3rd tray in there. We ended up doing 3 trays in each of the incubators and having 10.5 dozen per tray, and then in 5 days we'll add the other 3 trays of 10.5 dozen. So there'll be 21 dozen in each of the incubators over time. You can see I have blue trays in that one and yellow trays in that one, and that way I'll know, and I'll do the opposite the next time, so there won't be any question on which trays need to come down when we bring those down in 18 days. Like I said, in 5 days we'll load the other 6 trays. So when we do our next video, we'll be bringing down these first ones that we loaded up today. This is day 18 on the American Bresse eggs. So I'm going to straighten out these trays. Only the bottom trays are coming out. Remember, we set them 5 days apart. And so this is the day 18 for those bottom trays. I put the blue ones on the bottom here, and I put the yellow ones on the bottom here because I didn't want to get them messed up. So we're going to be taking those out. I'm going to candle them and put them in the hatching trays, which will go in the very bottom. And then I've also got my GQF Huvabator incubator going and warming up so that we can have some extra hatch space in that as well. But I'll show you that when I start moving these eggs down. So for the last 18 days on these incubators, the temperature has held pretty steady. It's set at 99.8. It's been running about 99.9, and my humidity is fluctuated between 48 and 52%. So I'm going to go ahead and put the sponges in that will raise that humidity for the 3 days of hatching. You can see here on the water reservoir, we've got our tank on top. It helps keep not having to fill this tray up all the time, so it just automatically does tray with float. So this is a sponge that I've put in. That should raise the humidity 10-15% by absorbing that water up through that sponge, and it'll increase that humidity. So when these eggs will go into lockdown, like I said, the bottom 3 trays are going to go into lockdown for 3 days. Hopefully on day 21 we get a bunch of baby chicks. This is my GQF hoverbaiter that I have plugged in here and am heating up. I filled the water reservoir earlier, about 5 minutes ago. So I'm gonna get that opened up here and check the temperature on that. It's probably not up to temperature just because it was cold water that I put in there. No, we're barely over 80 degrees, but hopefully that'll get up to temperature so we can put those eggs in here. It just offers a little bit of extra room. The trays that go on the bottom of the 1500 model are these trays here. We put the paper on the bottom just to help keep the mess down. It's easier to change those out. And we'll get those, I'll get those filled pretty well as much as I can, but then just have the extra overflow that we can put in this incubator here. A lot of times I'll hatch my duck eggs out because the humidity, I can get it pretty high on the duck eggs in the hoverbaiter. So I've always kind of just kept that around as my hatching, an extra hatching area for those eggs. So I have my carton. These are going to hold the eggs that I candle that are not developing. I haven't actually looked at these eggs in the 18 days that they've been in the incubator, just because it's usually better if you can just lock them down and leave them there. So I'm gonna candle them. Anything that needs to be gotten rid of, I will put in here. And then anything that's gonna go into hatching, I will put in the black trays that I showed you earlier. So I'm gonna just pull those trays out and candle them as I go. And you can watch as I candle her. I'm gonna look, that's a nice full egg. You can see the air bubble on the top and see a little bit of veining there, but if you, right there, you can kind of see something moving around, and that's the chick. So we're gonna go ahead and start laying these in here as I pull them out. Another nice, good full one. Not that I'm hoping that I find one that's not fertile or not growing, but that'll be the best way for you to be able to see the difference when you candle the eggs at this point. You can't, oh, there's one right there. So you can see that at some point it started developing and then kind of quit. There's the air sac, but then you can see that it quit developing. You kind of see some little bit of veining there, but for some reason it just did not continue its development. So we're going to put that over here in the tray to get rid of. It's a good one. As I had mentioned when we set all of these eggs, these are eggs from a farm I'm not real familiar with, but the American Bresse chicken, I've been doing a lot of research on those, and it's kind of a new thing, but we'll be anxious to raise up some of these roosters and butcher them, because the taste on these are supposed to be absolutely amazing. So we're actually, as I told you before, hatching these out for a friend over at Sandstone Farm, and we're kind of doing it on shares. I had actually cut back a lot on my chickens. I just had the Orpingtons that I'm doing some free range or some barnyard mix eggs with, but that was it. I've kind of started concentrating on my guineas and all their colors. And then Cody called because he knew I had some incubators that could hold a lot of eggs, and kind of talking to me about it. And when I looked it up, I was like, well, yeah, I guess we'll try that. And so our goal is just to have 15 or 20 hens with some roosters that I can keep some people in eggs, and then we'll probably incubate some of our own. And of course, it'll all depend on the taste of the eggs, or the taste of the chickens when we butcher them, to see if we like those or not. Boy, these are all fertile, and see there again, lots of good veining, and see a little movement in there. So that's what we're looking for. That's one tray down, and we had two duds, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these done, and we'll show you what we do when we put the trays back in the incubator. So we got one incubator with the 3 trays put into the black tray here. You saw that I had a few left that I went ahead and put in this incubator. Didn't want to get them too crowded. We ended up, there were 10.5 dozen that were ready to come down for day 18. And out of those 10.5 dozen, there ended up being exactly a dozen that were not fertile or had stopped growing. So pretty good, but that's about a 90% fertility and growth rate. Now, just because they're all, at this point, we still have 3 more days of growth, and doesn't always mean that they're all gonna hatch out. What we have found with hatching chickens for many years is there's usually a reason if a chick can't hatch out, whether it's cross beak or deformed legs or something's usually not right with it, and that's why it can't get out of the shell on its own. We're pretty soft-hearted, and if one of them has gotten out pretty far, we tend to help them a little bit, but the chickens are pretty much, if they don't make it out of the shell, they're not gonna make it. Guineas are different, but the chickens, you just kind of have to count your losses at that point and hope that the ones that do hatch out are strong and are good to survive. So we'll keep you updated on these American Bresse and show you on day 21 what we have. All right, so very carefully, I'm going to take this tray of eggs. Try not to rock them and roll them too much. Usually when I have my setup, they're a little closer to the incubators, but we're in the process of kind of moving things around. I'm gonna let my videographer, who is Joe right now, open the incubator there. You can see that this hatching tray just slides right in on the bottom. And with doing that, these trays still can turn, so these will be fine to keep turning for the next 5 days. And then by the time these hatch out, I'll pull all of that out, and on day 18 of these eggs, we'll do the same process and move them down. My humidity is gonna be up a little bit on those, but that shouldn't affect that too bad. So go ahead, and we're gonna put those in lockdown. And I don't plan on opening this door again for at least 3 days, probably 4. But I need to make sure I turn my automatic turner back on. I think I have to reach it from the, So that turns the automatic turner back on. That will continue to turn the eggs that are in the top trays here, and the ones on the bottom hopefully will get inspired to hatch out there. So we'll see you back here on day 21. 21 was Saturday, and started hatching on Friday evening, and we let him go through Saturday, and now we are here on Sunday, gonna open up the incubators and collect them all out, see how the hatch rates were, and we're waiting on Cody from Sandstone Farm to come pick up all of them from this hatch, and then we'll split up the next hatch that I have coming down on day 18 for tomorrow. So we're gonna open this up and see what we have here. Remember, these are the American Bresse. We might have some discoloration there, but looks like there's one here that's still, might just kind of open that up, and probably isn't going to make it most of the time if you have to help, like we said before, but when it's that easy, I hate to see one suffer, but it doesn't look like he's going to make it. But that may be the only, if you look down here, this bin is where we collect all of our hatched out egg shells, and then Joe actually takes these crushed shells and puts them on the garden when he plows them in. So he didn't do it last year, so that's 2 years worth of crushed shells there. But I'll get all of these out. Hopefully no babies will come out, and I'll put the lid back on this. And when Cody gets here, he can take all these babies home to his incubator. But see, there is some little bit of black on a few of them. I'm not as familiar with the American Bresse, so this is my first time dealing with this breed of chicken. But it looks like there's gonna be a lot of white chicks out of this hatch, and that's pretty. Don't see much there on that one. Obviously, there is some on these other ones. But this guy's still a little bit wet, so you can see some of these are less than 24 hours old and hatching out, and they can actually stay in the incubator for 48, sometimes up to 72 hours if you're not sure. But yeah, that was the only little guy that didn't get hatched out there. So I'm just going to shut this lid back on this one so that they can stay warm until he gets here to pick up those chicks. Then we're gonna go in and look at the other incubators and pull some eggs out of that one as well, so it's not so hard when he gets here. All right, so we have taken both of the bottom trays out. These are a lot of chicks. See that some of them do, a few black ones in there, a few with color. But again, it looks like we're gonna be lots of white as well, which I think is what we're looking for the American Bresse. We ended up with about 3 dozen eggs that did not hatch out, and then these are all of our shells that we pulled out of the ones that did hatch out. So we're gonna get those back in the heat, wait for Cody to get here and load up his boxes, and he can take all of these, and we'll wait for our second hatch then.
Okay, we're back down here. We've got Beth and I have gotten all the old eggshells out, so it's all down to the chicks now. And we've got Cody from Sandstone Farmstead and his kids here. Cody and I, we like to do for our children, and I know he will do about anything to help them learn to work and learn what it means to actually have chores and stuff like that. So Cody has a YouTube channel. It's the Sandstone Farmstead, and his last video we watched, it was really neat. He made a germination chamber out of old deep freeze, and you can check that out. And so, you got anything, Cody?
No, it's just nice to come together with another YouTube channel and friends that we've kind of, grown to be friends with, so close to us. It started out, I think, with guineas, and it's turned into kind of a partnership on these chicks, the hatch, because I don't have an incubator anymore. The wife thought it was a good time to get rid of. We moved on to having a high tunnel and a garden, but now we're going to probably have to do something different, but this was a good way for both of us to benefit.
So I think we're very similar. Like Cody said, he's got a high tunnel, we've got one. His kids are real into gardening and growing plants and FFA, and our girls were too. So it just seemed like a natural fit that we kind of work together. All right, well, we'll get started here and we'll start loading up these boxes full of chicks.
So we got the girls in here and they are adding to the box and counting as they go. All right, here we are back at the Hidden Haven Homestead. This is the second hatching on this is actually day 22. These guys hatched out a little bit quicker than the last ones, and so they're needing to come out of the incubator. I'm afraid to keep them in there more than 48 hours just because of their growth rate as well. Remember, these are the American Bresse. We had 540 eggs that we set, and we are getting ready to take out the second hatch. You can see that a lot of eggs in there, a lot of chicks that hatch. So we're gonna get those taken out and separated, and we'll let you know what the verdict was. All right, so here we are in the chicken house. We are putting them in our GQF brooder. Ended up with 392 that hatched out of 540, so it's about a 73% hatch rate, and I know the eggs traveled at least an hour to get here. So we're gonna get these in. Like I said, we kind of did this on shares. Cody's are still waiting the rest of his to get picked up, and we'll get ours in there and get them some food and water and watch how they grow. So if you like this video, please share and like and tell others about our American Bresse chickens.